Chapter 7, Part 3 of Zanzibar Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Kandice, Stehlik, Dallas, Texas. Zanzibar Tales by George W. Bateman. Chapter 7, Part 3. Kejipa stayed 3 days examining the house and said to himself, "Well, when my master comes here, he will be much pleased with what I have done for him, and he'll appreciate it after the life he's been accustomed to. As to his father-in-law, there is not a house in his town that can compare with this." On the 4th day he departed, and in due time arrived at the town where the Sultan and his master lived. Then there were great rejoicings, the Sultan being particularly pleased at his return, while his master felt as if he had received a new lease on life. After everything had settled down a little, Kejipa told his master he must be ready to go with his wife to his new home after 4 days. Then he went and told the Sultan that Sultan Darari desired to take his wife to his own town in 4 days, to which the Sultan strongly objected, but the gazelle said it was his master's wish, and at last everything was arranged. On the day of departure a great company assembled to escort Sultan Darari and his bride. There were the brides, ladies-in-waiting, and slaves, and horsemen, and Kejipa leading them all. So they traveled 3 days, resting when the sun was overhead, and stopping each evening about 5 o'clock to eat and sleep, arising next morning at daybreak, eating, and going forward again. And all this time the gazelle took very little rest, going all through the company, from the ladies to the slaves, and seeing that everyone was well supplied with food and quite comfortable. Therefore the entire company loved him and valued him like the apples of their eyes. On the 4th day, during the afternoon, many houses came into view, and some of the folks called Kejipa's attention to them. "Certainly," said he, "that is our town, and that house you see yonder is the place of Sultan Darari." So they went on, and all the company filed into the courtyard, while the gazelle and his master went into the house. When the old woman saw Kejipa, she began to dance and shout and carry on, just as she did when he killed Nyoka Mkoo. And taking up his foot, she kissed it. But Kejipa said, "Old lady, let me alone. The one to be made much of this is my master, Sultan Darari. Kiss his feet. He has the first honors whenever he is present." The old woman excused herself for not knowing the master, and then Sultan Darari and the gazelle went around on a tour of inspection. The Sultan ordered all the prisoners to be released, the horses to be sent out to pasture, all the rooms to be swept, the furniture to be dusted, and, in the meantime, servants were busy preparing food. Then everyone had apartments assigned to him, and all were satisfied. After they had remained there some time, the ladies who had accompanied the bride expressed a desire to return to their own homes. Kejipa begged them not to hurry away, but after a while they departed, each loaded with gifts by the gazelle, for whom they had 1,000 times more affection than for his master. Then things settled down to their regular routine. One day the gazelle said to the old woman, "I think the conduct of my master is very singular. I have done nothing but good for him all the time I have been with him. I came to this town and braved many dangers for him, and when all was over I gave everything to him. Yet he has never asked, 'How did you get this house? How did you get this town? Who is the owner of this house? Have you rented all these things, or have they been given you? What has become of the inhabitants of the place?' I don't understand him, and further, although I have done nothing but good for him, he has never done one good thing for me. Nothing here is really his. He never saw such a house or town as this since the day he was born, and he doesn't own anything of it. I believe the old folks were right when they said, 'If you want to do any person good, don't do too much. Do him a little harm occasionally, and he'll think more of you.' However, I've done all I can now, and I'd like to see him make some little return." Next morning the old woman was awakened early by the gazelle calling, "Mother, mother!" When she went to him, she found he was sick and his stomach feverish and all his legs ached. "Go," said he, "and tell my master I am very ill." So she went upstairs and found the master and mistress sitting on a marble couch, covered with a striped silk scarf from India. "Well," said the master, "what do you want, old woman?" "Oh, my master," cried she, "Keejeepaa is sick." The mistress started and said, "Dear me, what is the matter with him?" "All his body pains him. He is sick all over." "Oh, well," said the master, "what can I do? Go and get some of that red millet that is too common for our use, and make him some gruel." "Gracious!" exclaimed his wife, staring at him in amazement. "Do you wish her to feed our friend with stuff that a horse would not eat if he were ever so hungry? That is not right of you." "Ah, get out!" said he. "You're crazy. We eat rice. Isn't red millet good enough for a gazelle that cost only a dime?" "Oh, but he is no ordinary gazelle. He should be as dear to you as the apple of your eye. If sand got in your eye, it would trouble you." "You talk too much," returned her husband. Then, returning to the old woman, he said, "Go and do as I told you." So the old woman went downstairs, and when she saw the gazelle, she began to cry and say, "Oh dear, oh dear." It was a long while before the gazelle could persuade her to tell him what had passed upstairs, but at last she told him all. When he had heard it, he said, "Did he really tell you to make me red millet gruel?" "Ah," cried she, "do you think I would say such a thing if it were not so?" "Well," said Keejeepaa, "I believe what the old folks said was right. However, we'll give him another chance. Go up to him again and tell him I am very sick and that I can't eat that gruel." So she went upstairs and found the master and mistress sitting by the window drinking coffee. The master, looking around and seeing her, said, "What's the matter now, old woman?" And she said, "Master, I am sent by Keejeepaa. He is very sick indeed, and has not taken the gruel you told me to make for him." "Oh, bother!" he exclaimed. "Hold your tongue and keep your feet still and shut your eyes and stop your ears with wax. Then, if that gazelle tells you to come up here, say that your legs are stiff, and if he tells you to listen, say your ears are deaf, and if he tells you to look, say your sight has failed you, and if he wants you to talk, tell him your tongue is paralyzed." When the old woman heard these words, she stood and stared, and was unable to move. As for his wife, her face became sad, and the tears began to start from her eyes, observing which, her husband said sharply, "What's the matter with you, Sultan's daughter?" The lady replied, "A man's madness is his undoing." "Why do you say that, mistress?" he inquired. "Ah," said she, "I am grieved, my husband, at your treatment of Keejeepaa. Whenever I say a good word for the gazelle, you dislike to hear it. I pity you that your understanding is gone." "What do you mean by talking in that manner to me?" he blustered. "Why, advice is a blessing if properly taken. A husband should advise with his wife, and a wife with her husband. Then they both are blessed." "Oh, stop," said her husband impatiently. "It's evident you've lost your senses. You should be chained up." Then he said to the old woman, "Never mind her talk. And as to this gazelle, tell him to stop bothering me and putting on style as if he were the sultan. I can't eat, I can't drink, I can't sleep because of that gazelle worrying me with his messages. First, the gazelle is sick. Then, the gazelle doesn't like what he gets to eat. Confound it! If he likes to eat, let him eat. If he doesn't like to eat, let him die and be out of the way. My mother is dead and my father is dead, and I still live and eat. Shall I be put out of my way by a gazelle that I bought for a dime, telling me he wants this thing or that thing? Go and tell him to learn how to behave himself toward his superiors." When the old woman went downstairs, she found the gazelle was bleeding at the mouth, and in a very bad way. All she could say was, "My son, the good you did is all lost, but be patient." And the gazelle wept with the old woman when she told him all that had passed, and he said, "Mother, I am dying, not only from sickness, but from shame and anger at this man's ingratitude." After a while, Keejeepaa told the old woman to go and tell the master that he believed he was dying. When she went upstairs, she found Darai chewing sugar cane, and she said to him, "Master, the gazelle is worse. We think him nearer to dying than getting well." To which he answered, Haven't I told you often enough not to bother me?" Then his wife said, "Oh, husband, won't you go down and see the poor gazelle? If you don't like to go, let me go and see him. He never gets a single good thing from you." But he turned to the old woman and said, "Go and tell that nuisance of a gazelle to die 11 times if he chooses to." "Now, husband," persisted the lady, "what has Keejeepaa done to you? Has he done you any wrong? Such words as yours people use to their enemies only. Surely the gazelle is not your enemy. All the people who know him, great and lowly, love him dearly. And they will think it very wrong of you if you neglect him. Now, do be kind to him, Sultan Darai." But he only repeated his assertion that she had lost her wits and would have nothing further of argument. So the old woman went down and found the gazelle worse than ever. In the meantime, Sultan Darai's wife managed to give some rice to a servant to cook for the gazelle, and also sent him a soft shawl to cover him and a pillow to lie upon. She also sent him a message that if he wished, she would have her father's best physicians attend him. All this was too late, however, for just as these good things arrived, Keejeepaa died. When the people heard he was dead, they went running around crying and having an awful time. And when Sultan Darai found out what all the commotion was about, he was very indignant, remarking, "Why, you are making as much fuss as if I were dead, and all over a gazelle that I bought for a dime." But his wife said, "Husband, it was this gazelle that came to ask me of my father. It was he who brought me from my father's, and it was to him I was given by my father. He gave you everything good, and you do not possess a thing that he did not procure for you. He did everything he could to help you, and you not only returned him unkindness, but now he is dead, you have ordered people to throw him into the well. Let us alone, that we may weep." But the gazelle was taken and thrown into the well. Then the lady wrote a letter telling her father to come to her directly, and dispatched it by trusty messengers, upon the receipt of which the sultan and his attendants started hurriedly to visit his daughter. When they arrived, and heard that the gazelle was dead and had been thrown into the well, they wept very much. And the sultan and the vizier and the judges and the rich chief men all went down into the well and brought up the body of Keejeepaa, and took it away with them and buried it. Now, that night the lady dreamt that she was at home at her father's house, and when dawn came she awoke and found she was in her own bed in her own town again. And her husband dreamed that he was on the dust heap, scratching, and when he awoke, there he was, with both hands full of dust, looking for grains of millet. Staring wildly, he looked around to the right and left, saying, "Oh, who has played this trick on me? How did I get back here, I wonder?" Just then the children going along and seeing him laughed and hooted at him, calling out, "Hello, Haamdaanee! Where have you been? Where do you come from? We thought you were dead long ago." So the sultan's daughter lived in happiness with her people until the end, and that beggar man continued to scratch for grains of millet in the dust heap until he died. If the story is good, the goodness belongs to all. If it is bad, the badness belongs only to him who told it. End of Chapter 7, Part 3. Recording by Kandice, Stehlik, Dallas, Texas.